This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Shakespeare wrote that all the world's a stage. We go through our lives trying to elicit emotions from those around us. Pulling tears, excitement, or laughter out of an audience is an arduous task. The job of any performer is to allow their audience to sit in front of them and forget their lives, even for the briefest of moments. To focus on releasing emotions that are created and not their own. To entertain is to create feelings out of thin air. There are many people who are born with a natural gift to entertain. Those that are willing to work their craft are more than just the life of the party. They are the lifeline to rescue you from a daily life and are the professional emotion creators. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failace, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome Mike Marino to discuss the suffering of a veteran comedian. Mike is a true craftsman, and he runs out all over the world making people laugh at pretty much Italian jokes. Mike, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you very much, man. It's great to be here.
Well,
Thanks for having me over.
and it's going to be perfect for you because Kevin hates Italians.
Yeah.
So
I hated him so much.
He's
married
outnumbered
one.
here.
My grandfather always used to tell me, never marry a woman with a vowel at the end of your name. Both me and my brother married Italian, so.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's like the Irish-Italian thing. It's like, they hate each other, but they're attracted to each other. I mean, my father was Italian. My mother was Irish. They got married, divorced, married,
I guess growing up, my father always said, you're going to have to marry somebody just like your mother. Well, I've never been married.
There's a very close bond between Italian men and their mother. I do know that.
It's true. I wish my mother was still around this day. I have so many questions I want to ask her. Because if you think about it, back in the day when you had a problem, you went to your mother and you said, Mom, the girl don't want to go out with me. She don't want to come with me to the prom. My mother would say, that's okay. Have something to eat. You'll feel better. And it was like that all the time. Ma, I stink at baseball. That's okay. Have something to eat. You'll feel better. Mom, I got a D on my report card. That's okay. Have something to eat. You'll feel better. Ma, I broke my leg. That's okay. Just have something to eat. You'll feel better.
Rub some salami on it. You'll feel
See,
better.
Conversely to that, Irish people just walk it off.
Yeah.
Just walk it off. Before we go any further, let's give a shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody, but we trust Toyota of Hackensack. That's why we buy our cars from there. So go to toyotahackensack.com and let them find you a car. Now, Mike, each week we take a question from our audience, try to engage our audience a little bit. And this one, I picked this one out specifically for you. It's by somebody who goes by the name Stillwater. It says, how do you keep it fresh? And what I'm assuming they're not talking about showering. I'm hoping they're talking about how do you keep your zest for what you do every day fresh.
Still water, zest, and fresh. Sounds like a commercial for deodorant. That's how I keep it fresh.
That's how you keep. I was gonna say powder. I keep it fresh with powder.
Deodorant, what's that?
I
Nobody
think
uses that anymore.
every day something that goes on in the world can help you keep it fresh. Yeah, of course, just like everybody else going to a regular job, you start to get a little bored with your job. Maybe you don't want to go there on one day, and we feel like that too every once in a while. But once you get on stage, something just happens in your body. You're ignited. You're ready to attack, and you want to make everybody happy. So you can keep it fresh just by looking at the audience. There's always going to be somebody in the front row that has that angry face, and there's your challenge. You're going to ask them, why are they so unhappy? And how come you don't like what I'm doing? What can I do to make you happy? And that's going to make it fresh for you, too, because you're going to do something to get that person to smile.
And that's a tall order to ask of anybody. Change my emotion for me.
Yeah, that's how you
yeah.
change my emotion.
Think about that. That's what a comedy show is. And that is a daunting task.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, make me happy. Dance, clown.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing. Mike, what do you think? I mean, we've been doing this podcast. We're coming up on end of season 2. We're coming up on our 2-year anniversary. How do you keep it fresh inside your mind?
You take with the podcast, you take every one as a new episode.
Right.
You don't, you try not to do the same thing you did in the episode before as you're doing now. I don't know if I could relate that to comedy where, if you did the same jokes every night that you went out, your routine would become stale.
Well, that's exactly what we do. It's a routine. To keep it from being stale, you add, subtract, keep, get rid of, come up with something new. Bring back something from a long time ago, try it again. Or you work the crowd. Maybe somebody in the crowd is going to say something, igniting me into saying something that I've never said in my entire life, or an experience that happens to you that day. So, for instance, this last cruise ship that I was on, when I stepped on stage, the microphone didn't work. The guy in the DJ booth hardly speaks English. I asked him, is the microphone on? I thought he said yes. When I got on the stage, it wasn't working. So I had to look his way and tell him, hey, man, can you turn this on? Well, someone in the audience said, dumb comedian. Now, there's 300 people, and the first thing I hear on the first show is dumb comedian.
And you got to be quick.
And I'm Italian, and I'm from New Jersey, so I just said, did you just call me a dumb comedian? And I stepped off the stage. Now, this whole entire audience thinks there's going to be a brawl. 2 people in the front row actually got up and walked out. And I said to them, I'm kidding. Where are you people going?
It's a comedy show.
Their English wasn't good enough to get that I'm just going to make fun of this guy. I'm not going to beat him up. And they walked out the door. And I just turned to the guy and go, Dad, you just made these people leave. I told you not to talk to me when I'm at work. Now the guy's part of the show the rest of the night, but I didn't know that was going to happen.
You had to hone in on him all night.
I had to, because half of me really wanted to beat the guy up. Why would you say that?
But see, you have the opportunity to verbally beat people up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's great.
But you have to, those chops that you've come across, or it comes with experience, like that you can switch like that. And that's what does it for me. That's what keeps it fresh for me, is I'm always listening. I'm always learning. And we talk about the same things on here a lot, Prairie Fire, episode 9. These are common occurrences that we talk about in the show. But each week we hear from another person and we get a different perspective. And I get excited. Like I tell everybody, my anxiety goes so far down when the cameras go on, the lights come on, and it's action. That's when my anxiety comes in, and that's what I look forward to every week. It's almost like I've been on stage once where with a comedian, and that rush, that feeling, you're like, oh, okay, this is why I do it.
You could tell how good he did because he was on stage once.
I'm not a comedian. Listen, I'm far from it. But Mike, we've had multiple discussions, and I think, and we have some mutual friends, and I think you're a wonderful comedian. I love the avenue you take. You're a New Jersey boy. We always like to highlight our own, but you're New Jersey's bad boy, and you're running for president too, because you're going to make America
Italian again.
Mike Marino, 2024.
I said, make America Italian again. Somebody yells out, why? Was it ever Italian? I'm like, please don't look that deep into it. It's a joke. Relax. Enjoy it.
Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I grew up in New Jersey. I was born in Jersey City.
Weren't we all?
I think
Margaret
everybody.
Haig Hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Marion section.
Yeah, so was my father.
Grew up on
Mallory Avenue, Williams Avenue.
Grew up on the stoop, getting beat up by the neighbors. We finally moved to the suburbs out in Scotch Plains now.
That's where Dudley Moore's buried.
Scotch Plains?
I don't know why I know that, but that's where Dudley Moore is buried.
In Scotch Plains.
Yep.
I didn't know Dudley Moore was dead.
Dudley Moore died of a brain tumor, and he was buried in Scotch Plains. I have no idea how I know that. Somebody's birthday just flew out of my head, but I know that.
I mean, what? I didn't even know there was a graveyard that had people like that.
It's not a graveyard. It's someone's backyard. Oh. It's Italian up there. Come on.
Oh, it's under somebody's house. Oh, now I get it.
It's under about a foot of concrete.
He's in the stoop.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Hoffa's up there, too, I think.
Scotch Plains, beautiful area. I love that area.
It's a great town. I'm having a lot of fun being there. And I guess when I was about 5 years old, I just had this knack of impersonating television commercials. I would watch a commercial and I'd repeat it to my family. And they'd think I was just a nutty little kid. Then when I got to be 13, 14 years old, I just started going to New York City auditioning for TV commercials. So I had blonde hair and blue eyes, and I would say M&Ms or potato chips, and I'd end up making more money than my father.
Really?
Yeah.
And this is you're talking what, 70s? I don't want to
70s.
70s. That's that's when comedy started to really, because you had the mountain comics in the 60s and the 50s. And then 70s, New York kind of blew up on the scene, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't even part of the comedy wave. I didn't start doing stand-up till I was 30 years old. I was already in California working as an actor. I never even thought I'd be a comedian. It wasn't something I set out to do. In fact, when people were telling me I had a flair to be funny, I felt kind of offended. I'm like, man, I go to these theatrical acting classes, and you still think I'm funny?
I'm trying to be a serious actor
I
here,
did.
and you're calling me.
I'm trying to be a
You
serious
call me
actor
a
here.
fucking clown.
I'm funny. I'm funny.
How am I funny?
I'm funny how?
What's so damn funny about me?
Do
Tell
I
me.
amuse you?
Like a clown?
Like a clown. I'm here to amuse you. But that first time you got a laugh, was it a rush?
You know what happened? I think I was 28, 29 years old. They had a comedy competition at a bar in Bayonne, New Jersey. It was called the Sunrise Pine Room. And all my Shore House friends from down the beach, I think it was like a Wednesday night during the summer, we went to this place to have some drinks, and they were having a comedy competition. And I think the winner would win $50. I turned to my friends and I go, wait here, I got to go snag that $50. You're not a comedian. I'm like, I'm an actor. I'm going to play the role of a comic. Watch this. So I went on stage and I talked about my mother. 10 minutes later, I had $50 in my pocket.
Now, were you a Belmar guy or a Seaside guy?
Belmar, baby.
There you go.
Belmar, 1986, Montego Bay.
All you North Jersey guys go to the shore. Everybody who grew up at the beach calls it the beach.
Down the
That's
shore.
that's the
Sure,
difference.
You go to Belmar, you go to DJ's, you go to Bar A,
Yep.
That's the difference between
Reggie's,
North
Mary's
Jersey.
husband's
It's
Mary's
pub.
husband's pub. Been there, done that.
Now, you were making a living as an actor.
Yeah.
You were, and was it a lucrative career? Was it something that you sort of eked by with?
Now, when I was a teenager, I'll give you this story. When I was 18 years old, I was studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. You were not allowed to audition for anything or do any work as a Screen Actors Guild actor because you were part of the academy. They didn't want you working until you graduated school. But one summer came around, and I knew kids with blonde hair and blue eyes. They were crashing these auditions, so I crashed an audition for United Airlines. I had to play a Marine coming home from boot camp. Fast forward, I booked the job, #1 commercial of the year, made a ton of money. I couldn't leave my house without somebody saying, oh, that's Private Zaleski. I was nominated for a Clio Award, Best Male Performer in a TV Commercial, 1983. I lost to, I forgot the guy's name, but they did the Dr. Pepper commercials when they used to sing and the dancing in the streets.
Drink Dr. Pepper,
That's right.
and I'm proud.
That's right. And for the next 5 years, I was making a lot of money. I actually bought a house in Belmont.
I was going to say, so you dropped out of your class then?
Oh, I know. I got kicked out of school. You weren't allowed to work.
Yeah.
So 6 months in, they saw the commercial, and of course, I had to look like a Marine, so they shaved my head. And when I went to meet the dean of the school, and she said to me, are you Private Zaleski in that TV commercial? And I said,
No, I'm Mike Marino.
I said, yes. And she said, pack your bags, you're out of school. I go, I was just nominated for a Best Male. Oh, we're not saying you're not going to work in the business. You just don't meet Academy standards. And I go, I just signed with the biggest commercial agency in New York. So although I was depressed because I got kicked out of my college, that was my college, I went on to make a great living.
And then you find this ability. Well, I always say that comedians, although they are born because you have something, an innate ability to make people giggle, to make people laugh. You were probably always the life of the party.
Yeah.
But it's that craft. It's that crafting a joke. It's the timing. It's the punchline. There's so many mechanics and so many science, such science that's involved into it.
And playing off the crowd.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct. So when I was younger and I was just a class clown, I wasn't really thinking about what you just said. But when I became a comedian and all I wanted to do was just stand up, you do become a craftsman and a wordsmith. Because I adhere and I listen, but you have to rebuttal very quickly.
You would have made a great cop. I'm dead serious. You would have made a great cop because that's what you need when you're questioning somebody. You need that mental ability in order to, on a dime, to change because something just popped into your head.
Well, oddly enough, when I started to slip in the industry in my late 20s, early 30s, and I wasn't earning a living as an entertainer, I taught comedy traffic school at the Improv in Hollywood. They took comedians, sent us down to DMV, you studied the vehicle code book, and you taught a traffic safety class. But it was for 8 hours, and you had to know the vehicle codes and what the people did wrong and how to correct it. but they wanted you to make it funny so that people could sit there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So
Sitting in a
quite
class-
honestly,
sitting in a class for 8 hours is torture.
Yeah, it is torture. But if you got a comic
Right.
making it funny for you, at least you can get through the day a little bit easier and enjoy it.
Yeah, but the downside of that is people are breaking laws to try to go back into class. You got
Could
entertained.
you imagine? I don't think it was that funny. But I remember that's the way I was actually cutting my teeth as a comic, because you got 40 people for 8 hours. They can't leave. And I would crack jokes. I would write jokes. And I would work the crowd. Hey, who are you? What do you do? What are you in traffic school for? And
And they're probably depressed to be in there. Like, oh, I got to sit through traffic.
sure, they had to get there at 9 o'clock in the morning. They were ready to beat you up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what's really odd is that I actually know the vehicle code laws. So when I watch these videos today, when somebody says to a cop, I don't have to show you my license, I wish they would come talk to me. Because I'll tell you actually what it said in that book, and I know it. And the thing is, it actually is the law. You
Correct.
do have
Yeah.
to show them the license.
Yes, you do.
You actually signed the contract saying you will show it.
Yes.
So when people say to me, you don't have to do it, I'm like, I can actually show you where the law is.
What's it interfering with a governmental function?
Correct. And well, the basic thing is driving is a privilege, not a right.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
privilege.
So, but that ability to change on a dime, all right,
Yeah.
that is the makings of a good police officer. And there was actually a police officer, and I won't say the department. I don't know if you ever heard of Club Soda Kenny.
Yes, of course. He was
Okay.
the bodyguard for Andrew Dice
Andrew
Clay.
Dice
Right.
Clay.
So he,
How do you know him?
John Fetter. Yeah, I know John. I know John. So my father-in-law worked with him, and I worked in the town right next to him. But John put out Club Soda Kenny CD, and apparently it was laced with, but he never used his real name. It was laced with like.
Oh,
obscenity.
you just use his real name.
Yeah, because he's retired now. So his department fired him, and I never seen this happen. Within 3 months, he had his full pension, full 25 years, because he was right at the end of his career, plus a good payout because they fired him illegally because of that. He never once used his name. He never once did anything inappropriate. And of course, everybody took his words seriously. Like I'm sure they do with you. Like when you sit there and you talk about the Italian lifestyle, somebody's going to look and say, wait a minute, he's making fun of Italians. No, I'm making fun of myself,
Right.
So it was an odd thing, but they were wrong. And John, I don't know whether he's still doing it. I haven't heard from him in a while, so.
When I was in California, after a couple of years at the Comedy Store, I went on tour with Andrew Dice Clay. It was me, him, and Sebastian Maniscalco, who's now one of the biggest Italian comedians in the world. And I remember meeting Club Soda Kenny. He was always there.
Yeah.
That was Dice's guy.
What was that club in West Orange they always used to play?
Rascals.
Rascals. There you go.
Rascals.
Rascals.
You have Bananas in Hasbrook Heights. I mean, yeah, Rascals. I actually saw Andrew Dice Clay at Rascals in West Orange.
Andrew Silverstein.
Andrew Silverstein.
Andrew Silverstein got his start on Different Strokes.
That I didn't know.
Yeah, he was on Different Strokes.
Really?
He was one of the bullies beating up Willis, as everybody did. But yeah, that's where Andrew Silverstein, and he's listed as Andrew Silverstein. But so I heard something about Dice. Dice started as a true comedian, and the Dice Man was a skit, a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And people loved it so much that he just became the Dice Man. Was that something similar to you? Like you had your own personality and I'm sure you turn it up a notch on stage, or is that who you are?
Interesting enough, when I went to the Comedy Store to audition for the famous woman who owned it, Mitzi Shore,
Mitzi Shore, yeah.
I was doing impersonations. I was imitating Sylvester Stallone and De Niro and all the Italian actors that all the guys would impersonate. So I went on stage and I did, this is Rocky talking to Burgess Meredith and whatever. And so the lady said to me, you didn't tell me anything about you. So no. And I didn't pass. I went back, I guess, another 3 months later. And she said to me, I want you to tell me about you. Tell me something about you. And I went on stage and I tried to do some impersonations and a little bit about me. And she said, no, you're not telling me anything about you. And I stood there. Am I allowed to curse on your show?
You
Absolutely.
can say whatever.
And I
you
went just like this. I go, you know what, lady? I don't even fucking want to be a comedian. My friend told me to come here because he says I'm funny. The pizza in California sucks. The traffic sucks. This place sucks. I don't even smoke. And why is that guy looking at me like that? And she goes, now that's you. And I go, it is? And they signed me to the club.
I've heard
your jersey came out, and you.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about Mitzi Shore, that she was able to bring things out of comedians that you didn't even know you had inside of you. Like, she was a real eye for talent.
Yeah.
Is that pretty accurate?
That's exactly what happened. I got signed to the club. I started performing there all the time. And then I guess Dice was working out, he was trying to make a big comeback. This is in the 90s. He was there every Sunday night. I was hosting the Sunday night shows, and my dad was in town. My dad was a big cigarette smoker. He was visiting me. Dice was a big cigarette smoker. They're in the parking lot smoking cigarettes. My father came into the club, and he goes, your buddy outside said he's going to take you on tour. He's getting ready to do a comeback. He's going to help you out. And I said, who are you talking about? And he goes, the guy outside in the parking lot. He keeps taking my cigarettes. And I go, God, Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, your friend out there with the leather jacket and the stupid attitude. I go, that's Andrew Dice Clay. I don't know his name. He just said he likes you.
It's the guy.
That's the way they were talking.
It's this guy.
So Dice comes over to me and he goes, we're going to either call you the Golden Guido or you be New Jersey's bad boy. And I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah, you should wear a suit and tie and tell everybody you're the Golden Guido because you have blonde hair and blue eyes. We don't get to see them. And then we went to Rascals in West Orange. Him, Jimmy Norton.
Jimmy Norton's very funny.
Yeah, and we did the show together, three of us. And Jimmy Norton and I ended up doing a movie called Crooks.
Crooks, that one, I don't think I've ever seen Crooks.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It was an independent film. They wanted to get Dice. They couldn't afford him. So they got me.
No, he's too busy doing
Jimmy
A Star Is
Norton.
Born.
Wow. He's a legend. The guy's great. He's very nice to me. Every once in a while when I see him, he's always like, hey, how are you? We had a lot of friends in common.
Well, you touched on something, your parents. Now, was your mother around to see your routines? And
yeah.
What did your parents think about what you're doing? Did they think, he's going to work this out of his system?
Of course, just like that.
Yeah. He's going to grow up and get a real job one day.
You could always work for your father, Michael. You could work for your father. He's got a nice construction company, make a nice living.
I love the accent.
Your father.
Your father.
When do you think you're going to give this up?
Yeah.
But if you had a bad show, your mother always said, "Don't worry, here's a sandwich. You could eat it." You know,
good for you. That's a nice callback. No, my mother would come to shows and say, "I think you're cursing a little too much." And why are you making fun of me?
Enough
Well,
with
did she ever see Dice Clay then? I mean, talk about cursing a lot.
My mother and father came to see Dice when we were in West Orange. In fact, when my father showed up, Dice was hugging my father. He loved my father. A lot of people, how Dice would smoke and do what he did, but I do this little thing about putting out a cigarette. That's actually impersonating my dad. My dad was the type of guy who smoked so many cigarettes that I don't think he even realized it was in his hand. But if he was talking to you to make a point, he had to finish a hit on the cigarette, put it out, and then talk to you. So if you said, Dad, how's the weather today? He'd go like this. It's good. So now I do it in my act.
And now your mother's behind him going, Mike, enough with the comedy thing already.
Yeah.
Enough. But that's nice that they got to see you. Did they get to see a little bit of your success?
Oh, yeah. They seen the awards. They saw the commercials. They saw people show up at my house. Hey, is Mike here? They saw me film 4 different comedy specials. They saw me in front of thousands of people. One of the biggest specials I ever filmed, my mother and father sat next to Danny Aiello and his wife at the Paramount in Asbury Park, 1,700 people.
I was just down there this weekend.
The last Don
Paramount.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen him a couple times around the area. You're in a restaurant. I'm like, hey, there's Danny Aiello. Holy cow.
Such a nice guy.
And that was it about Danny Aiello. He never acted like he was Danny Aiello.
Yeah.
He was a regular guy. He'd just show up at a restaurant and eat, and people would go over, hey, Danny, how are you? It's like, hey.
Yeah.
I think they were afraid to ask him.
Down to earth guy.
I think they were afraid to ask him, why did Hudson Hawk bomb so much? Bomb. But, that's good, though. And at some point, did your parents accept that, okay, my son's there? It's got to be a sense of pride for them. Every parent wants their kid to succeed. They don't want to see them fall flat on their face because it hurts. It hurts real bad. Now, you've stepped on stage so many times. Was it early on in your career? Was it a success? Was it a modicum of success? But I'm sure that there was some bombs. I'm sure. You wouldn't be sitting here if there wasn't.
Yeah.
Now, explain to our audience what that feels like when you go up on stage and it's just not working.
If I was to say today to any up-and-coming comedian who goes out and bombs, I would say enjoy it, embrace it. It's the greatest feeling in the world. It must suck, and you think it's going to be the worst thing. I give anything to go back to being 29, 30, 32 years old, having absolutely no idea what I'm doing, not getting any money, not getting paid, having a cup of coffee in a room filled with comedians waiting to tell 5 minutes of jokes. I miss it. I used to be at the Comedy Store every Saturday night. I would go on at 2 o'clock in the morning in front of people sweeping, and it sucked.
And the other people are all drunk.
But guess what I learned? How to be a good comic. Because it's like going to the gym, and you're pumping the weights, and you're pumping your weights. You don't look good. You don't look good. You don't look good. All of a sudden, 7 years, you got the greatest body, and you're powerful. So all those years of bombing in front of nobody, now all of a sudden you're going to get put in front of 1,000 people. You're going to be a killer. You're going to be a killer. And then the jokes that were bombing for so long start killing. And you're like, I wonder what it was. Just a word of a joke changed could turn it into the greatest thing you've ever said.
Mike, did you see Mike's face when he started talking about that? Like your eyes just
brightened up.
Yeah, you're like your eyes just lit up. That's how I know you love it. And I've seen a couple of different comedians like that.
I've done a bunch of different talk shows where you go on the show and you perform, and then when you're done performing, you'll sit and
on the
talk
couch,
to Jay Leno or whatever. And when I did this show, Comics Unleashed.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Suffering Podcast. But okay.
Wow.
We'll sit on the couch after this.
We'll go with Comics Unleashed.
When I went on Comics Unleashed, I had waited a year. I felt like I was going to be the only comic they were never going to put on the show. I'm like, why don't they put me on? Well, my friend started working there, and he called me up, and he goes, come do the show. And since I'm new here, you better hit a home run, because I had to go out of my way to get you on the show. I go, I'm going to hit a home run. Don't worry about it. I know what to do. So when you tape certain shows, they fake a lot of shit. They make the audience applaud. They've been there all day.
The guy with the applause sign in the front. Yeah.
He's the warm-up poster going, come on, folks. One more show. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody's been drinking. So I'm on the show, and they said, this is the last taping. Everybody's really, really tired, so you better bring it. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to do this joke about being the first Italian president, and we're going to whack Osama bin Laden. And that's going to be the joke. So when I started the joke, I felt the audience start cheering. So for the first time on this show, a comedian got out of the chair and stood up, and that was me. And I pretended I was putting out a cigarette, and I said, Osama, I want to talk to you about something. The audience just went nuts.
I've seen this bit on YouTube.
Yes. Wow.
Like, what happened to Osama bin Laden? Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Steal the rugs. And the funniest thing is, I didn't think much of it. I just felt like I did a great job. Then I started getting all these phone calls. Dude, you're viral, bro. You're viral. There's millions of people. And you start getting all these phone calls. You come play the theater. And then I'm just like, damn, yeah. Who knew?
Is that your, I made it moment?
Well, you can have an I made it moment a lot of times, because I don't think there's ever going to be in my life that moment that I say I made it, and I don't
really
have to try anymore.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to stop.
Well, that happens to a lot of comedians, okay, where they make it, and then their sophomore year, you figure they make it, they're big, and then they come in with their second comedy album or their second special, and it's kind of like,
Yeah, I'm not going to let that happen. I always want to be growing, I've done 4 specials. They've all been sold in stores. They've all aired on television. But I want to do another one. And hopefully when that's done, I'll do another one. I want to do a sitcom. I want to do a movie. I love being in this business. I'm not going to stop.
Is there a lot of pressure behind it? Where you have to go out. You ever feel pressure before going on stage saying, I have to be funny. I have to make these people laugh?
Yeah.
Or do you just go up confident saying, I know I'm going to make these people laugh?
No, I was taught a long time ago by Armando Sante. He came to the acting school, and he said, here are the tools that you're going to need to be in this business. A suit of armor, because everybody's going to poke at you, very thick skin, a survival job, and the attitude that everything you get, you should be very thankful for. and always be nervous when you're going to perform. Because when it comes to live performing, if you're not nervous, that'll be the night you bomb because you're too cocky to be nervous. So I'm always nervous. I'm always saying to myself, oh, no, I hope. And I will never take what I do for granted. So even if there's a night where I don't want to get on stage, I will make sure I bring the mustard.
You know, Armand Assante has my favorite line in all of movies. That's why I respect the guy so much. And I watch even movies that he does now. I still watch it. When he was playing Gotti, number one, he grew up in that area. Like, so he did that research. He knew that character really well. But he's talking to Anthony Quinn, who was playing Neil Delacroce, and Paul Castellano, the guy playing Paul Castellano, just became boss. And he goes, this guy, he squeezed the fucking quarter till the eagle screams. And to this day, I use that line when somebody's being cheap.
Right.
But I have a lot of respect for that guy because he's a true craftsman at what he does. He really immerses himself in those roles, and you believe it. Just like I believe when you get up on stage that you're going to go out and whack Osama bin Laden.
Right.
You know, that's part of that actor in you, I think.
Yeah.
I think. But there are some downsides to comedy. You know,
I was going to say that too. Depression is big in comedians also.
Yes.
Richard Jeni.
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Richard Jeni. So the story I heard about Richard Jeni is he always wanted to do movies. He never wanted to, but he was supposed to be one of the best comics ever. And I watched Richard Jeni specials. He was very, very funny. And then he goes and does what he does.
Yeah, he shot himself.
Yeah. I mean, is that all part of the pressure put on you, do you think?
Yeah, because we always have to look for work. You don't get a job and you're going to work there for 30 years.
Yeah, it's not like you're getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning saying, oh, I got to work today.
Right. You got to look, shop, hope, beg. It's not easy, man. You could be the best and you could be nowhere. A lot of comedians quit this business. There's only let's say the top 100 comedians actually earn a living. And then there's others have this as a part-time job or a hobby. This is not a hobby. So you can get very depressed. And let's suppose I'm out on a cruise ship and everybody thinks, wow, what a life. Yeah, well, I'm by myself. So at night, yeah, I'm with everybody. We're having fun. During the day, they're all coupled up. I'm by myself.
I go back to the cabin by myself.
Yeah.
But so the travel portion of it, and I wanted to get into the travel portion because I always thought that's where the depression of a comedian comes from. Because when I was in a job where I traveled coast to coast, living out of a suitcase 4 weeks out of the month, it's a lonely existence. Because unless I'm in my own bed, I'm never off of work. You know, like I'm always working. And it got very lonely. Does that happen?
You get lonely, you go into your head, and you start creating. What do you create in your head when you start thinking about the way things could have been, should have been? Why am I not there? The jealousy. Why is that comedian got that and I don't have that? That guy took my joke. How come he became famous? What happened to so-and-so? There's a powerful depression that comes from jealousy. You know, your bruised ego.
Could it be like an insecurity thing?
Well, you got to be somewhat secure to actually have the balls to get up on a stage and say, I'm taking you all on the ride and you're coming.
Oh, that's gigantic balls.
You
To
know.
make no bones about it.
Because that's the one thing I know. I have the confidence, well, I will slaughter you. And if you get up and go to the bathroom while I'm performing, you might as well just kill yourself.
No, there's been so many times I went to a comedy show and held in my piss for
Hold on
fucking
that
hours.
Shit. Oh, fuck
You want
up.
another beer? No.
And
I'm full.
I knew Richard Jeni. I used to see him all the time. The guy was a legend.
Yeah.
He did 12 or 13 HBO specials, all completely different. He was probably one of the top Italian comedians, if not the top Italian comedian. I used to see him all the time when I was coming up at the Laugh Factory. And Dom Irrera, who's still around, he's a good friend. They were friends.
Dom Herrera is hilarious.
He's the best. Yeah. But Richard Jeni, I guess he was going through some depression. He did do that TV series, The Platypus Man, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember
that was his show.
And The Mask. He was in The Mask.
He was in
Jim
a lot
Carrey.
of projects. He was worth millions of dollars. But I saw him at the Laugh Factory one night, and he was talking to Dane Cook. You know who that is?
Oh, yeah.
And Dane Cook at that time ended up selling out all the Staples centers throughout the United States, through MySpace, when MySpace was the big internet giant, if you remember this. And they were talking, and I remember looking at Richard Jeni, and I'm saying to myself, he's jealous. He's jealous of this Dane Cook guy who kind of came out of nowhere, but he didn't. He was working for 20 years before he hit. And then I think it was 5 days later, and everybody at the Laugh Factory was talking about how Richard went home and said to his wife, his girlfriend, go in the room, make some breakfast, and he shot himself.
Dane Cook was on a meteoric rise.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like he came out of nowhere, but you said he'd been working for quite some time.
Boston guy.
But he went so high and flew too close to the sun, and his eventual, I think his brother stole all his money or something like that.
Stole a good portion of his money, $11 million. How do you embezzle $11 million? It was his half brother, but still.
Yeah, out of your family.
And
that's because he wasn't Italian.
Or anybody.
If he was Italian, that wouldn't have happened.
No, it wouldn't have.
How do you know people are how do you not know people are embezzling 11 million?
That's true too. How do you not know? I mean, I know when somebody took $5, $11 million, even if it was $2 million, $1 million, $500,000. How do you not see it? What are you not looking at?
I guess you surround yourself with the wrong people, and I know there's a lot of comedians who do that. They get famous, they get the hangers on, and people are giving them bad advice. I call it the Elvis syndrome, and I'm going to throw in Elvis. See how it worked in Elvis? It's the Elvis syndrome that you become so big, no matter what you put out there, it's going to be funny because people are going to laugh. Hey, you ask your friend, how was that set? It's great, Mike. It's great, Mike. Even if it wasn't great, it's the Elvis syndrome. Nothing is real.
People kissing ass.
Yeah. Do you see that a lot? And especially after your specials or something like that, do you just get some hangers on?
You get hangers on, but I really don't have anybody in my life or my team that kisses ass. They all just say, hey, let's go to another level. And, people behind you, like agents and managers, I mean, 90% of them could be full of shit most of the time.
I was going to say,
you'll get all the work yourself.
Any of your people tell you suck after a show? Are they straight up with it?
Some people might say, hey, that wasn't your best performance. Something like that.
Try not to be rude, but I'm sure you felt that when you were on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There are some nights in your own head you're having a conversation with somebody else, and while I'm performing, it's just on automatic pilot. You could tell, I think people can tell when it's on automatic pilot for me because I'll just do a routine and keep on going.
Right.
Some shows, I'll just keep on going for an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes because I'm having fun and I'm making shit up.
You better not do that at the NJ Pack this weekend.
I really don't know what I'm going to do because I have routines that I could just get away with and I'll make everybody laugh. But when you have a show like this that makes no sense whatsoever, 3 governors and a state senator as the opening acts, I don't even know what they do. I don't even know how they got on this show. Usually have an opening act, he works the crowd, everybody's in good, and then Mike Marino, what the hell are these guys going to do?
I know one of the guys there has a very good sense of humor.
Right.
I know one of he wrote a book called The Accidental Politician. That's all I'll say.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I know John Bramnick. He's funny as crap.
Right.
I love the way he works. I've done many shows with them. But it could be really cool because, I'm going to go into this whole thing about running for president now, and I've been running for 16 and a half years. I really deserve to be the president. I'm going to be the first guy that you could vote for many times, not just once. This type of a thing.
You could be the Lyndon LaRoche of comedy.
Well, I don't even know who that is.
Lyndon LaRoche ran for president for like 40 years.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah. He was always on the ticket. Even he went to jail and was still on the ticket.
Oh, okay.
Under one of those parties and stuff.
So you got to realize something about Kevin. He's got a wealth of useless information.
Good for you.
That and if I could monetize that somehow, man, I'd have a lot of money.
It's monetized. I'd love to do the whole thing for the rest of my life. I think it's funny. I love coming up with stupid gags about what I would do if I got into the White House. That's another thing I wish my mother was around to hear because now I brought her into the mix of what I'm doing, and I says, since I've never been married and I have no kids, the first lady would be my mom. Besides, I want her to come and, take care of things because I got to eat. And I don't know.
You get rid of those chefs in there, the food testers and stuff.
Yeah, that's how I'm going to fix the deficit. Like, I don't need 3 chefs. I just bring in my mother. She doesn't need to get paid. She just wants the room. I'm already saving America money. And then I want to get rid of the pilot. I don't think Air Force One needs to have a pilot. I can do it.
You have a bunch of cheese hanging from the ceiling in the White House kitchen.
It used to be Air Force One, now it's Gabagool 2. How much fun would that be? I want to do a routine here. JFK Airport, yeah, this is the president. Listen, we're on our way in. I know we weren't on the schedule. I figured take the plane for a ride. Get as many fire engines as you can ready. It's going to be messy.
Hey, I'm flying into Newark Airport because I got to go over to the Gabagool store up in Newark.
I can take that. I'll make that a joke.
We weren't scheduled to land, but I'm really in a mood for Gabagool from Jose's Deli over.
Mr. President, you're not on the schedule. Yeah, I know, but I was really hungry the other night. We were smoking this weed. You got to smoke this weed. It's really, really good. And I don't know if you've ever been to Washington. Their cold cuts suck, man. So clear the runway.
I had to get out of Washington. I got to go back up to Jersey where the cold cuts are good.
Clear the runway. It's gonna be messy.
It would be an interesting presidency. I think you should.
Maybe the world would have more fun.
Well, that's the whole thing. Okay, so you take emotions out of the ether and you put them into people's hearts. Somebody who's having a bad day, maybe they're getting dragged to your show, and that's an amazing thing that you do, and it's a talent and it's a craft that you're able to change emotions like we said early on. And I don't know how comedians do it, but you do it in a cerebral way where you make them think, where you were just talking about the Air Force One, like, how would that work? And that's how I'm thinking. I'm like, how would that work? That would be pretty good. That would be pretty funny. And that's part of your talent.
If you remember a long time ago when we were in so many different wars, the comedians from L.A. were doing the USO comedy tours.
Yeah.
And that's when I started coming up with an Italian president, because I got to go see all these teenagers at war, never going to leave until they're done with their terms or whatever it is, a couple of years, right? So we entertained on this aircraft carrier. There must have been 5,000 Marines on this aircraft carrier, and just like the whole Bob Hope thing, we got out there to entertain. And there was a time where, if you remember, they said France didn't want to help America in the endeavors of the whole Osama bin Laden thing. So I walked up on stage and I go, you need me to run the country. If I was running the country and France didn't want to help America, I'll cut the head off the Statue of Liberty and I'll send it back to France and say, don't mess with America. And these people just started screaming, right? But I was making that up then because it was happening in the news.
That's pretty damn good.
It's cool,
That's
right?
pretty damn good right there.
And then there was also another thing where they were saying that some of the American stealth bombers hit the wrong targets over some area, right? And I go like this, that might be true, but you got to get a guy like me to drive one of those planes, because if I hit the wrong target, they'll say, Mike, what happened? I'm like, the wind took it. I went to the left, it went to the right. What do you want from me?
Give it the old, forgot about it.
And the thing is, these people are just screaming, laughing.
That's got to be a good feeling.
It's silly.
But that's got to be a good feeling to you. That's got to fill you up.
It does. And I was doing this whole thing about friendly fire. I said, you guys are talking about friendly fire. If I ever got shot in the ass by somebody, I'd be like, what kind of friend are you?
That ain't friendly.
After you say you were my friend, I'm bleeding.
A lot of overhears. Oh, I'm bleeding over here.
Yeah.
But God, I don't even know where to go. You just got off a cruise ship, too.
Yeah.
And is that sort of like a mini vacation for you, or is that that's a work thing?
It depends on what ship you go on. Some of the ships you have to do a show every night. Some ships you do 2 shows every night. Some you only do 2 or 3. Some you could be in front of thousands of people. Some you can be in front of just a couple hundred. It's a job, but you do get to see the world. I've been all around the world. So this last ship that I did went to Costa Maya, which I love to go. You see the Mayan ruins, and you go to the beach. You go to the Coco Cay Island. You go to Cozumel. And I can come up with jokes on the island and bring it back to the ship, and I'll do those jokes on the ship. They're not going to work probably Saturday night, but I was thinking to integrating them just a little. So one of my favorite jokes, and I tell everybody, this is going to be such a killing joke. You can't put anybody else on stage after me. The ships sail through the night, and in the morning, the captain comes over the loudspeaker. they wake you up with these 3 beautiful chimes, and the captain talks about what the ship did during the night, which to the average person, you really don't care. You feel like, oh, could you shut up? I got a hangover. Stop talking. So what I do is I say, but how much more fun would it be if it was me? But it's 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm still out partying. And I wake everybody up and I go, hey, everybody, listen. I kind of fucked up. We were supposed to pull over. I was talking to this girl. She was calling me captain. And the audience just starts screaming because, like, the audacity of this kid saying that. And it makes them laugh. So I know the whole next day when the captain does come over the loudspeaker, everybody in that room's going, wouldn't it be cool if we just heard him just once? We would crack up laughing.
Good way to start the day.
You should have worked it out with the captain when you did wake up one morning and said it.
Hey,
hey, it's me, Mike Marino.
Hey, you listen, I don't know if you notice. That's the way I do it. But
Anybody seen a captain out there?
I fucked up. I love that. I fucked up.
I know we're supposed to be in Cozumel, but I think we're down by the Jersey Shore somewhere.
That's kind of like what I do. Now, when you go on these islands, people buy things for their friends back home. Everybody's selling T-shirts. Everybody's selling cups and mugs and shit. And there's this one place that sells marble tchotchkes. Like, you can get a turtle, you can get some kind of a bird, all these things that you bring home to your friends and family to give them a gift, right? Well, they have marble penises, and I saw them in this place. So I had to talk about it in front of the audience. And you would think it's a pot pipe I think it's a paperweight. It's a penis, right?
It's right there on the table.
It holds your papers down. So
Sitting up like this.
I said to the audience, I go, me being me, I had to go in there and I said, excuse me, you work here? Listen, how much for the penis? You got anything bigger? Is there a bigger one? And then you go, how do you get it through customs? Who's this for? Well, I got this friend, Kevin. He needs a paperweight, and his papers, they're always flying. So I brought home this cock for him, and I said, why don't you just put that there? Looks good in your hand. And but they start laughing really, really hard because they saw it.
Yeah.
But I talked about it.
So it's really in the moment comedy.
Yeah.
You see something that day that everybody saw, and you can come back and
I can't stop laughing because technically I really want to know what's it for.
It's funny how
You should have asked, like, did anybody buy one of these fucking things? What the hell are you going to use this for?
it's funny because I'm going to guess, growing up in an Italian household, you had the same cadence probably with your parents. Your mother said something, you fired back with what you thought was funny. What you're doing now versus you as a little kid probably got you a lot of backhands.
Oh, yeah, we used to get the shit knocked out of us.
You didn't go to Catholic grammar school, did you?
I did, correct?
Oh, yeah. So
and
you get
now-
the nuns that backhand you, pull your hair.
Oh, yeah. Remember the nun used to kick your ass?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, rulers across. I got that. Rulers across
That
the
was some
knuckles.
serious shit. They should bring that back in the world.
Yeah, you got that right.
Bring that back.
No. I got it. I can say whenever I got the ruler, it was always for something that I did. One of them, the nun, for whatever reason, had a pair of underwear in her desk, and I pulled them out.
Well, listen, I never didn't deserve getting hit by a nun, but I got hit a lot.
But think about that. So what got you a backhand when you were younger has served you well. So when you were a little kid and they told you this is never going to get you anywhere, it's going on your permanent record, look at how well it served you.
That's true, too. Comedy comes from your past, comes from your day-to-day, comes from real life. My original act was all about driving my mother around. My mother came from Italy. She never had a driver's license. She never worked a job.
That's old
Her
school.
job was to make sure the kids were fed. So I had to take her shopping. And my mother was a classic. She'd walk into a place and you'd wait in the car, and she'd come back out and she goes, I got all the groceries that I needed. And I says, was your friend in there, the guy that owns the place? And my mother go, yeah, he was in there. I never liked him. I don't even like his kids, the sons of bitches that they are. The next day she'd be like, hey, how are you?
It's a friend, yeah. That's going back to the friendly fire thing.
Yeah.
So that served that. Sometimes you find it in the weirdest places, your vocation. And it sounds like this has just been a long journey for you. Now, I know in the comedy world, a lot of it is bringing people along, like Dice brought you along. You do that with comedians now?
Yeah. There's a lot of guys I've helped out. I've helped them structure, helped them write, helped them get gigs. Comedians can get other comedians more work than an agent or a manager. It's just that sometimes most comedians are very undisciplined, and they either just don't give back, they don't show up, who's got a problem, who's unreliable. So you get to the point where you can throw your hands in the air and say, listen, I'll just do my own thing. In fact, I don't need a comedian. Give me 3 governors and a politician.
But now you're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way of a lot of comedians. Is it a good way to work out material? Is that what it's for? Or is it just you just getting around and bullshitting?
I like bullshitting. I like having people on the show. I like interacting with an audience all the time. So it gives you another outlet to interact with people. Yeah. You know, when I was doing my podcast the other night and I had the actor on the show, people were writing in, asking him questions, and we were giving back the answers. It's fun. It moves along very quickly. And it also sells tickets. People want to go to your website. They'll find out where you're performing.
It's got to get you great and sharpen your skills at improv and that quick thinking that you need to have on stage.
Well, when you guys were doing your Instagram live feed, you get people writing in from different parts of the country, maybe different parts of the state. One time I was doing the morning walk that I do, and some girl wrote in from Ukraine. And now all of a sudden it's a conversation with everybody who's watching and me and the girl in Ukraine, because they had the same questions I had.
Right.
Holy crap. Are you all right? What's it like? Are you near the bombing? And she started saying, first of all, she actually said this to me, you keep saying the Ukraine. It's just Ukraine.
It's Ukraine, yeah.
Stop saying the. And I said,
Okay.
all right, I apologize, Ukraine. And she goes, we're in Poland. We left. And she started saying her whole story right there on Instagram, and everybody was watching.
You didn't ask her if she was in the Poland, did you?
No. Are you in the Jersey?
But that's
Which is weird because we don't say New Jersey. We just say Jersey.
you just say Jersey, right?
But nobody ever says York.
But we say the shore.
I do, down the shore.
When I was traveling and people asked me where I was from, it was when The Sopranos were being filmed. I would say, I'm where The Sopranos are being filmed. And then all of a sudden the questions just flew out, because New Jersey, for as small as it is, has produced some of the greatest entertainers, some of the greatest films, some of the greatest actors down the line.
Musicians, everything.
And well, I don't know. I'm not a Bruce Springsteen fan. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
well, Frank Sinatra.
Bon Jovi.
Elvis came to New Jersey once.
Yeah, and he never came back.
Yeah, why would he?
That's the sequel.
Why would he? So mentoring these young comedians, it's because somebody did it to you. Do you feel it's almost your duty? Because there's space out there for everybody. We say this with podcasting all the time. You know, I'm not in competition with Your Mother's Basement. We're different. We're all out there in the ether, but we're not in competition with each other. That's why I never have a problem promoting anything of anybody else's. Do you feel that same way with comedy, that there's space enough for everybody?
Yeah, there is. There's room for everybody. Everybody's got a voice. Everybody could capture an audience. Sure, why not?
And you would have that opportunity. Maybe you find that diamond in the rough, that one who's disciplined, that one who tries to craft like you.
Recently, I think I did. It's a 23-year-old kid. He's coming to the show Saturday night, and I told him, just hang around with me. I'll introduce you to some people. I got him one show, and he stood in front of 300 people, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do. That's rare. And he was clean, made it about his family, introduced me. We all went home, made some money, and I like the guy. His name is John Franklin. So.
Give him a mention?
John Franklin.
John Franklin.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take a look at him.
Yeah.
So where can we find you? Where can we? I know
I'm right here.
Yeah, well, you're right here.
Right across the table.
Where can
So
you
when you're
find me?
not in your mother's basement,
All my social media is at Mike Marino Live on all social media platforms, even the TikTok thing. And my website's mikemarino.net.
You still on MySpace?
Nah, I wish I was.
You were friends with Tom, I know.
oh, you know, so we're doing this thing at Grand Saloon. You heard a little bit about it on our Instagram Live. It's our 2-year anniversary. Grand Saloon is actually one of our sponsors. It's a nice little family restaurant, family bar, pub. They have live music. They actually have comedians in from time to time. Nick has been very, very good for us. It's 940 Van Houten Avenue in Clifton, December 21st. I'm going to invite you there Just you're gonna love it there. Not to perform, just to be
December
you.
21.
December 21.
I'll be in New Jersey.
You'll be in New Jersey. Hopefully you can make it.
I'll go.
I love you there.
Yeah, that'd
The
be
word
great.
saloon.
Saloon. Oh yeah.
Who even says saloon anymore?
Nick does.
Nick.
from the Grand Saloon.
Well, then I'll go.
Yeah, Nick's a good
it's
dude.
right in
That's right
Clifton.
before Christmas.
That's what we're doing. We're trying to bring
Wow.
people together for Christmas.
Well, that's our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's our 2-year
Are we
anniversary.
going to have a party?
Yeah, a little bit of a party.
What night of the week is it?
I think it's on a Wednesday.
Done.
It's just going to be, get people together. All of our listeners and everything. We're inviting them all out, all former guests. We're going to get in. We're going to do, maybe a little remote podcast from there. And
It's actually going to coincide when this airs. We're saving you because
December 21.
December 21. Don't worry, I'll text
December 21, I'm going to be at, what saloon is it?
you. Grand Saloon in
At the Grand Saloon in Clifton,
940 Van Houten Avenue.
940 Van Houten Avenue.
They got spam on the menu now.
Spam, slices, you get 3.
They don't have spam in a can. They have the packet.
Spam comes in a packet. It used to come in a can because it was fresh. When it comes in a packet, it turns to green mold, but it tastes nicer. I just did a commercial on your show.
It's,
Spam a lot.
so what do you got coming up?
Well, hey, this Saturday night, November 26th,
Which
at 8 o'clock.
It'll be after this show's aired, so. But I'll be there.
You should have came to my show.
Where the fuck were you?
Hey, why weren't you there? We had spam. Everybody who came got free spam. 3 slices.
3 slices of spam. A packet of spam, not a can.
I'm actually looking forward to it.
All my shows are at mikemarino.net from now straight until 2023.
And we actually hooked you up with, you're doing something with Frontline Cigars. Was it December?
Yes, and you mentioned that just a little while ago.
Yeah, so Frontline Cigars is Steve Boyk. He's out of Chicago.
Yes, that's right, Steve. I spoke to him on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
I called him from Puerto Rico. I did. I was in Puerto Rico. It's free on a cell phone. And we were chit-chatting. He was talking about, the depression that he goes through.
Sure.
And I was telling him about what I go through and that we can't wait to meet and talk. And then I made him laugh because at that moment, I was sitting in a restaurant in Puerto Rico and I was having a chicken burrito and a hen went walking by. A rooster. They have roosters. They just walk around on the street.
You check his plumbing. That's
So
how you know it's a
I
rooster.
said to him, I feel a little bad right now. I'm actually having a chicken burrito, and there's a rooster staring at me.
I'm eating
like,
his
listen.
cousin.
I'm like, listen, I used to eat spam, but I switched to burrito. I'll go back to spam.
No, Steve's a good dude, and that's those fortuitous relationship building skills. Because here's how it happened. Mike was doing an Instagram live. Whenever I see you doing a live, I always tune in, and you invite me on. And when I went on, Steve had seen I went on with Mike, came in, and actually Steve made a good joke. I said, "Yeah, Steve's a good friend of mine." And Steve goes, "He knows me. I don't know him," which I thought was pretty funny. It was pretty quick at the time. But that's those relationship building skills, and that's probably served you well throughout your life. Now, you've done this for 30 years. You've had the highs, you've had the lows. It seems like more the highs than the lows, but I'm sure it was tough at some point. You've gone through some suffering, even though you make light of a lot of the suffering. What do you think it's taught you being a veteran comedian?
Well, I know I'm never going to do anything bad to my own self. I'm always going to do charities to let myself know that I have a great life. There's people out there that need help.
They need to laugh.
You got to be grateful with what you have. Here's what I do for myself daily.
No, we don't. This is a family-oriented show.
Yeah.
Don't tell us what.
I don't have any physical problems. My hands work, my feet work. I'm not aching, I'm not paining. As far as I know, my cholesterol's not bad. So I'm okay. So that I have. I have my health, and I know the value of that because I did have 8 inches of my colon removed about 8 years ago because I had a thing called diverticulitis.
Diverticulitis.
I got it.
And I thought I was just going to die. I almost wanted to die. I'm like, just kill me. But since I don't have it no more, I realized, okay, man, because when I was sick, I said while I was in that hospital, if I ever get out of here, I'm never going to complain about anything again. And I ended up complaining about shit anyway.
The next day.
But here's something that happened recently. Now, I'll say this on your show. These people are coming Saturday night to the show. A woman sends me an email and says, "How much do you charge to entertain at a wedding?" And I says, "Well, it'd be between this much and this much, but it depends on where, when, and how." She goes, "Well, it's going to be on this particular Saturday night, and we know you're going to be in New Jersey. We know that you're going to be at this club that night. We're going to have a brunch." I said, "You're having a brunch for a wedding?" And she said, "Yeah, my husband has stage 4 brain cancer, and I need to get him on my insurance policy right away."
Oh.
And I said, "How old is this man?" She said, 30. And I go, "I'm free. There'll be no charge. Why does this have to happen? You're on his bucket list. He can't wait to meet you. He doesn't know I'm doing this. He loves you so much that I think this is going to be really good for him." And his doctor gave him 5 years. So I says, "Okay, I'm bringing a singer. I'm bringing another comedian. I'm bringing the cake girl, Marianne. She's going to bake a cake, and we got you covered free. Don't worry about nothing. I'm coming." And we went in there at 12 o'clock. We busted up this place. I had this guy laughing his ass off. I hugged him. I says, "Dude, what happened?" And he goes, "Well, this is what happened in my life, and the doctor diagnosed, and this, that, and the other thing." So I'm all happy that I got to do something for somebody that I'm saying to myself, look how lucky I am that I don't have brain cancer at 30 years old. And then the letters start coming. "Thank you so much. I think you added 2 years to his life." And they're all coming to NJ Pack. All of them. His friends, everybody that was at that wedding.
I have no doubt in my mind that you put a couple years onto this guy because you made him forget about his problems. But when you do those things for other people, that's what gives you the perspective, because you got to see the bad before you can appreciate the good. Like your success now, you only appreciate your success because there was a time when you weren't successful.
Right.
Right.
And it's really paying it forward.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a great thing. And it must be fulfilling to you. Like you said, you did it for free. You told them that you were going to do it. It had to be fulfilling for you to see smiles on these people's faces and knowing that you put the smile on their face.
It's a little bit of a mind fuck. Am I really that big of a deal that I'm on your bucket list? Really? I'll be right over.
Yeah.
But I ain't on nobody's bucket list. I know that right now.
Recently, I was on a plane, and this lady was coming in for a landing, and she goes, "I hope you don't mind, but I took your picture while you were sleeping." I go, "Why would you do that?" And she goes, "My daughter's a really big fan, and I told her that you were here." And she's like, "Get his picture." And I go, "Well, why didn't you just take a picture while I'm awake?" And she goes, "I didn't want to bother you." And I go, "This is hilarious."
So now you got drool coming down your mouth.
It's hilarious.
There's a picture of you sleeping, floating around somewhere.
No, I said to him, "Miss, you could just take a picture with me. It's not that big of a deal." So we took a picture together. And as soon as we had the picture taken together, it makes other people in the airport go, "Oh, you know what? Could I get one too?" And I start to go, do I have that face that I look like some kind of an asshole, that I'm unapproachable? Because could you people tell me? Maybe this is why I haven't had sex in quite some time. I'm a single guy. Maybe I should walk around smiling a little bit more.
Well, I have to tell you, Mike, I appreciate you coming in here. I thank you for coming in here.
Sure.
You are one of the most genuine guys I've met in a very, very long time, especially somebody of your status. You I don't want to say you earned the right to be an asshole, but there are plenty of people with your less famous than you who are absolute assholes, but that's not you.
Who think they're bigger than they are.
Yeah. This guy right here. Perfect example. Mike, thanks so much for coming
Thank you for having me on the show.
It was great meeting you, man.
This is great.
I look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Now, do I get spam?
We'll hook you up with some spam. We get a nice little parting gift of spam.
We'll bring it to the show and start throwing them on the stage.
I've been spammed.
That's going to do it for this episode of The Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of a Veteran Comedian. Now, as always, let's think about what we learned. Sometimes a career finds you. Bombing can be a gift. Humor can be found everywhere, but most importantly, you gotta laugh. And that's going to do it for this episode. Follow us on social media. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Don't forget you can listen before you watch. Every episode comes out on Sunday, and then Monday through Friday, watch our new content. Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast, and we're going to see you on the next episode.